welcome to episode 13 of My Body the Guitar with Karla Linn Merrifield. This week, an incredible subject, Bonnie Raitt. Great to see you, Karla.
Oh, you too, Paul. I mean, we say this all the time, but it is always such a treat. And here we are already at episode 13, my lucky number. So it just worked out that way for Ms. Bonnie Raitt.
Well, I think that 13 is lucky for everybody when Bonnie Raitt's concerned. I think it's fantastic.
Yeah.
So with this poem, Karla, do you want to talk a little bit before you read it? Or was that
Just that it's even though it's in two parts, the lines are short. So and it's not in any particular form. It's kind of sparse, like many of the Japanese forms are, but it's not in a particular Japanese form. It's just the way that Bonnie spoke to me. So the poem is titled Diptych, Left Hand, Third Finger. And a diptych is just for those who, or diptych, it depends what English you're using, is just a term that means a piece of art in two panels or two pieces. Originally, it was used in the art world. So you would see a piece of art that had like two panels next to each other. Often that was done in ecclesiastical art, where you would have like, two saints next to each other, and they're related to each other, and the artist created them as a pair, and it has expanded into the poetic world. Diptychs, triptychs, three pieces or three panels, and this is it's a two-part poem. Okay, that's how simple it is. And I called it Left Hand, Third Finger because Bonnie Raitt, who among her many prodigious talents, plays slide guitar so frequently, and she puts the slide on her third finger. So it's kind of a tribute to her style of playing, as simple as that. So I guess, why don't I just read the poem? Does that sound good?
That'd be fantastic. Thank you, Karla.
Okay. All right. Diptych, left hand, third finger. 1. Bonnie, Bonnie, Bonnie. Bonnie, I am your old woman. I have turned down those lights, and I am scared to run out of time, but not yet ready to give up this fight. Bonnie, you can blues, slay demons, and keening banshees to set we fairies free. Then in 12 bars, nimbly play me this blissing. Bonnie, please sing our very nick of being. Along this hard way we go, in still believing in this living. By your voice, guitar, music, mighty precious. Part 2, Yearn. The blues is pain. Is that rag and roll your raspiness? The ache of angels moans among sexy romps, you emotionally tangy. A gut string slide is the human voice crying through ballads you float. Grief and rhythm in an hourglass fleeting, you woman wise, touring my heart.
I say this every time, Karla. It just knocks me over completely. It's such a beautiful poem. So first of all, I wanted to ask you about the songs you might have used as an inspiration for this.
Mostly, I mean, you picked up on it, and people who know her music will too very quickly. I relied heavily on the lyrics to her song Nick of Time, which is probably my all-time favorite Bonnie Raitt tune. So you'll see lines like, I am your old woman. She says in the song, there is an old woman, and she tells that old woman's story, which is pretty much, um, well, it's a good blues song. It's sad. She's worried about running out of time in her life to find love. And I listen to that and I feel this empathy wash over me for all the, not just women, but men too. You know, you reach a certain age and you see the end of your life much closer. And you're wondering, will you ever know love again? So that's kind of what, I must have listened to this when I was writing this part of the poem. I must have listened to it 30, 40 times.
Wow.
And it just part of the fabric of my being. So those, I owe her a great deal, not just for her music, but for, lending me some phrases in this poem. I call it your very nick of being. I mean, it's more than the nick of time. In the poem, it's our whole notion of mortality that comes over us stronger and stronger, I believe, as we grow older. When you're 20, 21, 22, nothing's going to kill me. I'm never going to die. And life goes on, and unfortunately, at some point, we lose our parents, and we end up being what they call elder orphans. The empathy that she is able to communicate through not just this song, but so many of her songs, just imbues me with this incredible power that, yeah, she understands. She knows what life is all about, and she knows how to sing it so that everybody can understand. Not these crazy little esoteric poems that I've been writing. She just gets out there and in front, and tells it like it is and sings it so gorgeously, that we feel like we're not as alone as we were.
I was going to ask you, Carla, before we go into the poem further, Bonnie Raitt's actual achievement in empowering, well, she as a musician, she is up there with anybody. I think she's amazing. But as an actual figure, bearing in mind how difficult it was for women in music in the 70s, um, what type of figure does she hold in that terms of inspiration for women worldwide?
It's interesting you asked, Paul, because we have a mutual friend, Dana Miller, who's very well known music journalist, and she was talking about this the other day,
Mm.
that and I certainly had read about it in a couple of biographies about Bonnie, that at the time that she was as going into the biz, I mean, she was young. She was in college and she was out there singing coffee houses and doing her thing.
Mm.
But to break through the country music in that world, I mean, they just women weren't welcome, and it was grudging when they were. So for her to break into that was miraculous to begin with. I mean, talk about determination. So yeah, she made it. But for every Bonnie Raitt, there's a dozen or more male singer songwriter players who hit the big time, and nobody, and that's just the way it's always been. So I think, maybe rock and roll was a little more generous, a little, but the country scene, ultra conservative, and boy, they wanted those boys, and they were going to let the girls into the room to party, or the studio. And so she's a culture hero for that. And she paved the way for the ones who have followed. I mean, I'm not a country fan, but Trish Yearwood, comes to mind. I mean, you had your June Carters and things like that. But and Roseanne Cash, writing in on with great talent though, but writing in on her dad's coattails. So and Bonnie's dad, who, even though he was a musician, wasn't in that particular world of musicians. So it says a lot. And if you tune into country stations on the radio in the US today, which I do on occasion. I have one on my satellite radio in my car, and you just listen. I mean, I can drive for 8 hours and listening to country music and hear maybe 3 women in that whole time. I mean, it's astonishing. So it still endures today, even though, Bonnie broke huge ground, and there have been very successful country female singers. It's still a real tough road to hoe, as they say in the South.
It's interesting. I totally hear what you're saying there, Karla. Is that I mean, from the UK until recently, there was only, if you wanted to hear country music on the radio, you'd have like 2 hours every week. There was a country slot, and that was it. Um, it's the same with rock music, and I think one of the great things about artists like one of the many great things about artists like Bonnie Raitt is that they don't need the radio to be great. I mean, Metallica in the UK, you never hear Metallica apart from on a rock show. You never hear Iron Maiden. You never hear Bonnie Raitt on the radio unless it's a blues show. But if these people tour, if Bonnie Raitt was to tour, she would be filling out some beautiful arenas, and she would be having fans. So fans kind of I always think the radio is kind of they think they're much more important than they are, because the biggest acts in the world outside of pop music don't really get on the radio very much. I like a band called Muse, but I don't really hear them on the radio very much at all. But people get into it, and it's the radio tries to give this big important I am, and maybe it was at one time, but now it's like, get out the way. Especially with the internet, they kind of get what they deserve, really. Because another thing I was going to add to that, Bonnie, about the Bonnie Raitt story is that she I presume it's the same in the UK. She had a couple of devoted DJs that did some great work in promoting her and sharing her music. In the UK, there's a guy called Bob Harris, or the late Tommy Vance. John Peel's another one. He would champion bands and say, this is great, and they would be regardless of genre, really.
Well, and she's done in her career, especially I would say approximately, the last 10 years. I mean, she has linked up with some fabulous male stars, and the one that pops to mind because he's so dear to my heart is Mark Knopfler. And you talk about a duet. I mean, the work that they did together is just astounding, and it's having a partner, so to speak, a musical partner like that I think has also helped bring Bonnie Raitt to the world. And certainly, Mark Knopfler, for Bonnie in the UK, I mean, he did marvelous stuff in terms of their collaboration, for getting her out there into the public, on with his following. So those kind of partnerships have been fabulous. And that's my favorite. I mean, I could listen to the two of them all night long.
I totally agree, Carla. I think it's a fact. Can we? I was going to ask you about the first stanza there. When you say, "I have turned down those lights," I love the way I kind of think I know where that the inspiration for that was.
Yeah.
And then on the last line of the stanza, you quote the song again. And is that right?
Yes, that's correct. Now, help me remember the name of the song because I've been learning it.
I Can't Make You Love Me.
I Can't Make You Love Me. Okay. I Can't Make You Love Me. So yeah, there are a couple lines where I wove Nick of Time and I Can't Make You Love Me together because they're kind of bookends for that sense of loneliness and need. Where there's in one song, there's an old woman, her life is very mundane and she craves something beyond the screen door of her humble abode. And then you have another woman character, speaker of a song, willing, just desperate to be loved one more time by this guy some guy who just doesn't care about her. but she doesn't care. She just wants to spend one more night with him. So yeah, she turned down the light, this character, and she turned down the bed, and she wanted him there, just one more time. So the two songs kind of conflated in that opening stanza because they address the same issue of loneliness.
I think I love the way you've done that, Karla. I really do, because that's almost in the same way as she would maybe build a solo. I'm trying to talk and think at the same time. It's terrible. For instance, you've taken elements of two songs there and weave them into a wonderful a verse. Now, kind of musically, she would not do this directly, but when she plays solos or when she would do it, I'm going to take an example that everyone would know. So I'm going to take Layla, which is a famous song, and I'll put another famous blues riff in it. If I'm doing a blues solo, I go. So there's one line from Layla, and then I might go play Smoke on the Water. So I'm kind of doing that, weaving bits, two songs together there. But people, if it was in the context of a blues context, people wouldn't really know. They would kind of, but they would have the impression, of something, and it would give it a forward motion, and it really brings in interest. I love the way you do that. That's a beautiful bit. I call it tapestry. What we've done there, just weaving those beautiful words together.
Well, and your parallel in terms of a blues song does it. I mean, I'm sure that there are a lot of songwriters, it's not like you're copying a riff from Layla, or you're copying a riff from Nick of Time, and then moving on to a riff from I Can't Make You Love Me, and kind of throwing them together. It happens. It just happens in the course of creating a new song from what's in your head, or a new poem from what's already in your head. It happens all the time. We're always borrowing.
These are to me these are perfect lyrics as well. You could eat. In fact, I might do one a verse in a minute, but they're perfect. It's just beautiful. Can we go on to the second second verse, because this is such gorgeous stuff?
Oh, I guess I was here. I kind of went a little Irish. Something that I was feeling in the music as her music as I was listening to it. Bonnie, you can blues slay demons and keening banshees to set we fairies free. Then in 12 bars nimbly play me this blissing. So I mean, it's the power of her expertise on the guitar to put those, my demons, or the speaker's demons, in the poem, the I of this poem. She can make all that stuff kind of just, send our demons away. That's the power of her music. Whether or banshees, I mean, sometimes you hear yourself screaming in your head, I can't take it anymore, whatever. And you listen to her music, and boom, I mean, she just slays all that bad stuff, and sets us free with her music. And it's and I came up with the word. I mean, poets do this all the time. It's called neologisms. We create new words. So it's not just a blessing, it's a blissing. It's beyond a blessing. I mean, she's just over the top in her talent to reach the human heart, and make us feel better about our lives.
It's so I'm just looking at the second. I've not actually practiced this, but I just think if I just put it in the context of the obviously how she would sing it, but in a blues context, which is a lot of the inspiration for this. I'm going in a G tuning. So with the slide, if I go, Bonnie, you can blues slay demons and keen and banshees said, we fairies three. And then 12 bars nimbly play me this blessing. Something like that. You know,
Bravo!
great lyrics. It's such I love the way Blue Slade Demons and Keening Banshees. What was the inspiration for that line, Carla? Because that's an incredible line.
It's like I said, there was something going on in my head that it felt like touching, on the Irish heritage. And so, yeah, Western world, we have demons, but, particularly the Irish with their long folk tales about banshees. For some reason, that's the headset I was in. I was, they weren't just demons. They were also these keening banshees. And that's what a banshee was known for, was this horrific kind of howl, scream. And man, she just, she sends all those demons and banshees back to hell, and sets the rest of us free. I mean, we're these little people with this magic inside of us, and she liberates us, or she does me, with her singing and her music. So, and and the blues is perfect for that, as you just demonstrated.
It's so beautiful. So the next the third verse there, Carla, could you just give us some insight into that again? It's such a beautiful tapestry of words there.
Okay, and I thank Bonnie for some of them. Bonnie, please sing our very nick of being along this hard way we go, in still believing in this living, by your voice, guitar, music, mighty precious. And not nick of time in this case, but nick of being. And she sings in that song of, the hard way we have to travel, just to keep believing and staying alive. And that rings, maybe part of it is, for this poem, is that I created it during the lockdown time of COVID. And people were struggling. I mean, I'm sure that's the context that some of this came from. Just that, here we are, and we're in this horrible situation with this rampaging pandemic, and we're having a lot of people are struggling. I mean, I've read article after article about the mental health issues that have arisen because of the COVID situation and the lockdowns, and unbearable loneliness, and frustration, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, people are in trouble. And in this particular stanza, I think that context really was at play. I couldn't deny it. And she, even then, I mean, music, you can't perform. Musicians have been off the stage for months and months and months, but we still listen to our music, and it still gives us solace. And Bonnie in particular, she's teaching us and singing to us, and helping us, still believe in this living, that it's still worth it to be alive. And what an affirmation, what a gift to be able to give that to her listeners.
I think
so. It's a tribute.
You pick up on a really good. I love that point, Carla, because even though physical music of buying CDs and records, I mean, it's never been. It's in a very poor state at the moment because of downloads and all that type of thing. But in terms of music itself, especially over this period of COVID, I can't think of a time in the last 50 years where music's been more important to people, because the amount of time when we did gigs, I would see people, and I'd be the same. You hear a song and you shut your eyes and you're in the moment, and then all the memories come back, and it's there's also an aspect, particularly with Bonnie Raitt, I think, is that she's such an emotive musician. I think she's almost a genre by herself, because I kind of when I think of Bonnie Raitt, I think I don't really put a label on it. She's a bit like Billy Joel. She's like, well, it's Billy Joel music. It's like Bonnie Raitt. Is she country? Is she jazz? Is she blues?
Right.
Well, yeah, she kind of does all that. So what do you call it? Well, Bonnie Raitt music. Tom Waits, same thing. She could do anything and be successful at it. And I think one of the things about Bonnie Raitt's music, which is not talked about particularly a lot, is the fact that she's so emotive when she's so immersed in her craft that music does bring chemical changes in the body when we listen to it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So we're 60% water. A bit more after that tea, but
Yeah.
60% water. So we're actually reacting in real time, not only to the song, but to the things that it's played through as well. If you hear it through a big speaker system, those sound waves are
It's
hitting your
point.
body.
Yes.
My body, the guitar,
Yeah.
which is exactly
Exactly.
what you've talking about there, Carla. I think Bonnie Raitt. I do think she's a genre. If I went to a CD shop, I would not know in what section to look for her, other than the Bonnie Raitt section.
Oh, that's interesting. I think you're right. When I get back home, up north in Brockport, we have a wonderful used CD and vinyl shop. This guy has been there, oh God, 30 years. Trader Stag. And anyway, and he's got an incredible collection. And he does exchanges. But I will go in and I will say, where can I find Bonnie Raitt? Just out of curiosity.
Yeah.
See, I'm curious. Where does he keep his Bonnie Raitt?
Singer-songwriter, country, jazz, blues. It's. I think she can only be in the Bonnie Raitt section.
All by herself.
I think so.
Well, and there's Bonnie, and like you mentioned, there's you go through the vinyl, the 33s. Oh yeah, there's the Tom Waits section.
Yeah. And so the second section there, Carla, of yearn. What was your idea behind that?
Oh, I think I can't recall specifically where the title came from.
Mm.
But I think that's what we're all yearning. And so it was kind of a universal appeal to all of us. We're all in a state of yearning for something, for release from COVID and the lockdowns. Some people really from wearing the masks all the time. Whatever it is, I mean, it's broader than that. I mean, yearning to achieve something in our lives, yearning to find that magic job, yearning to find a job in this kind of bumpy economy that we're going through. So I think it was trying to get at her universality. She can talk, when she talks to me and she talks to you, sings to us, she can do it to everybody. And she knows how to somehow, she has this direct connection to the human heart and the human condition. And she knows that we're all yearning. We go about our lives and we get our groceries and celebrate our little birthdays, even if it's on Zoom or whatever. But she's universal, and I think that's what I was getting at. And then this is really about this second one. It really kind of narrows in. Yes, she can do anything. Some really rocking kind of jaunty numbers, slow ballads, real country wailing stuff. But this is really, the second part is truly about the blues part of her musical skills and virtuosity. And nothing says yearn like the blues. And only she can do that her way, that just reaches everybody. I don't know anybody who could hear Bonnie Raitt coming over the radio and switch the channel.
I totally agree, and I think one of the aspects of the yearn is also it's the strive for progress. because blues musicians, with all respect, learn their vocabulary fairly early. With BB King played, found his voice with a string band in maybe in the 60s possibly, and he kind of played the same way differently all of his career. But even though he might play the similar phrase, it's never the same, and he's always looking like Bonnie Raitt. They're always looking for more expression, a different way. It might not be more forceful expression, might be
Right.
intimate expression, but this is this why these people are so great to me. I think is the fact that they can just reach inside the out of the CD player, whatever, and they just bring you in. And when I listen to "I Can't Make You Love Me," nothing else is going on when that record's on, and it's a whole immersion thing. Then it's like I don't know whether it's possible to. Well, I'm sure it is possible, like feel music outside in a chakra or something like that. But it's just there's something transcendent about her music. I think about her guitar playing because she doesn't have like she's not like a guitar player that has to play certain phrases in every tune to show you how much he's practiced, like I do. um, she's all about letting the music flow, I think, and it's fabulous. So and the raspiness in her voice. Are you referring to a music there, Karla? Do you think?
Yes, the blues is pain is that rag and roll, which is, from what I understand, that rag and roll is a blues terminology for a particular kind of movement in a blues song. And I mean, just the phrase is just, and you almost get it from the sound of it, rag and roll. And your raspiness, I mean, her voice has this raspiness, not gritty, that's too far, but just that little, almost like I was running a chopstick over a cheese grater. I mean, that's what comes to my mind. That's just it's unique, and I think it's part of the magic of her singing style, that there's this, it's an earthy quality, that it's not that, I mean, it's the opposite of, when you think of like a mezzo soprano in the opera, and how that, that pure bell tone, okay, of an opera singer, hers has that little rasp to it, that texture. That's it. It's the texture that is part of the richness of her voice that I mean, it's sexy as all get out, but it's earthy and human, kind of, trying to describe the ephemeral, but that's what I'm trying.
When she speaks and you hear her sing, you can put the two together, voice wise, and I think the link to what you're saying there. I think the fact is that when you hear her perform, and not just her or the musicians around her, it's a totally immersive, 100% collective band performance. I've never seen her live, but I've seen her on loads of concerts on YouTube and stuff like that. And she seems to be a great motivator for people, a great enabler for people to play. I'll watch the drummer, and the drummer's watching her, and everything's moving, and it's like a whole unit. And I think that's a really special talent, in the way Santana has the same type of thing, I think.
Yes.
Or there's a very much, it's not just about her, it's about the music. And that comes across every time. And I think that's why she's so popular, because, I mean, I don't know how old she is, but I mean, regardless of how old she is, I'm certain 70 is the new 40.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And she's kind of,
we're very close to the same age. I mean, that's part of it too. I just, she's a sister, at my age. I mean, we're on that same trajectory together in terms of where we are in our life cycle. So she's even, dearer to my heart because of that. This is, this is that, what they call women of a certain age.
But isn't it fabulous? Because I mean, you're both pushing the envelope right out, right over the cliff with your book, with your music and stuff, and she's still, still pushing and pushing, getting better every time. I think it's a great. The yearn is for me is progress. If I'm not yearning to play anything better, then I'll put the guitar down. You know, and
Okay.
it's a great. Could you just talk about the second stanza, because this is just like this is just gorgeous. Karla.
Okay. And I swear to God, I have no idea where this stanza came from. It was just there, and it poured out on the page in my journal. The ache of angels moans among sexy romps, you emotionally tangy. And I think what I because she'll go in a show, if you watch a concert of hers on YouTube, she'll go from, I mean, her sets are orchestrated so beautifully, and she'll go from something really achy, real, bluesy, yearny thing, to, so that's the ache of angels.
Mm.
And then she'll go rip it into what I call a sexy romp, where you are just, and you can feel like all that bump and grind,
Yeah.
and it's and that's her. She can do that, and that's what I call her. She's emotionally tangy. It's not all one thing ever. She's always mixing it up. So it's yearning on a spectrum of fronts in the human condition, and from an ache of angels to a sexy romp, and she can do it. I mean, she's emotionally tangy.
Mm. Oh yeah, she is. I mean, that's the thing. Is she's a very pretty lady,
Yeah.
and it's like, and but she doesn't kind of play on that. It's just it's. I mean,
Mm-mm.
she's kind of incredible. I mean, she looks at, because if they were gonna like if they were gonna cast a film where they needed kind of a musician that was playing both for the god and devil together at a party, she'd be the one doing it, because they'd both be
Wow.
going, the devil would go to God. God, is Bonnie Raitt. She's amazing, and she's so cool as well. She's a bit like, she's just kind of totally unique, because there's lots of great female guitar players around for certain, but it's the fact that she's a great communicator. And I think, go back to Santana, she's got the universal tone. She can sing the telephone book, and I go, wow, that's fantastic.
Yeah, and she went through. I mean, there was a particular period in her life, that was not to a degree that many musicians get to, but she went through a really rough spell. She was drinking too much. She wasn't eating right. She gained weight. She wasn't at home in her body. And there were a spell of a few years there, that she really struggled with her own, her existence. I mean, music was always there for her. And I thought back on that. We, as again, sister to sister, having gone through something similar a number of years ago, and and she triumphed. She was able to get her feet back on the ground after not too long, a few years, and just come back. She didn't lose it, her musical career, but really come back stronger than ever,
Mm.
and overcome that slump in her emotional well-being that so many of us go through. Um, and what a triumph! I mean, she at her age, look at as dynamite as she looks, and with that, all the talent that besides just her physical being. Go girl.
Yeah, absolutely. And the next, again, you just stack the intensity right to the end with this one, Carla. As ever, it's brilliant with the gut string slide.
Yeah, just a slide guitar with guts, a slide guitar with gut strings. It's just such a great little phrase. A gut string slide. I mean, that the sounds there kind of fight each other a little bit.
Mm.
And there's her human voice crying to us, and not so much crying, tear cried, but crying out loud to us. And these float, and there's, these ballads she's singing that have the sad stories behind them. And she floats right through them and brings them home to us. So we can join in the empathy that she's expressing through her music, the compassion for um, others out there who are struggling. And that's a power. I mean, talking about, that's a healing power. So she's able then, and then it goes on the final three lines, the last little stanza: rhythm and grief in an hourglass fleeting, you woman wise touring my heart. She knows exactly what's going on in here in my heart.
Mm.
It's astonishing.
There's another. I just you've. So I often get asked, slide guitar. Can you sum up slide guitar? And you've just done it, actually, Carl. I'm just looking at the third stanza, because if I get the words, so it's a gut string slide is the human body crying through the ballad you float. So if I take the word slide, crying, and float, that is exactly what the slide guitar does. Because
Ooh,
number one, I'm not pressing it with, normally I would press the strings down behind the fret, so I'm pushing the string down. But with the slide, with the bottleneck, it floats across over the string, and the cry comes in because you have no fret there, so you can make it. It's so vocal, and because there, if you just, for anyone trying to, I have to get the right way around, anyone doing this, using the slide, literally you just, if you have a note in mind like that, you can just, so if you put it in the context of almost like an Indian raga, very expressive. And I think that enables, and plus the fact that Bonnie Raitt slide played, or any slide players approach, is that if you're playing a slide, you've got to play the essential notes that you want to hear. If you're playing with your fingers, play lots of notes. Some of them I would just play it, and I'm thinking maybe I don't want to play that. But with a slide, you've really got to be picking the notes that you want. You don't want to go, not really that one, but. And from a musician's point of view, it really hones in on the quality of the sound. When you hear Bonnie Raitt play, her tone is, well, she kind of looks like a tone. Actually, she looks fantastic, and her tone is fantastic, and she plays beautifully with a smile. And I don't necessarily mean she might not be smiling physically, but inside she's smiling. And that's what people pick up. It's the internal smile of Santana's his
ooh,
name. They got this
ooh.
internal smile that really brings joy to people. I agree with you, Carla. I defy anybody to listen to Bonnie Raitt and go, it's all right. It's like,
Right.
it's never going
No.
to happen. You know, it's never going to happen. And she, Tour in My Heart is, what a great title that is for a start. I mean, that's a brilliant title for a song. But the fact that I mean, all the, and she is one of the greats. All Eric Clapton, Jeff Beck, they all revere Bonnie Raitt, and they all have done for a lot of years. I think one of the aspects of why she's not possibly a household name outside of the US is purely down to marketing, because the talent's there, And when people say, "Oh, this artist's amazing, they've sold 10 million albums," well, that is okay, that's good, but it's like when you sell a lot of records, that's because there's a massive, that's not just because, but there is a massive marketing push. You see that with artists today, that they can barely, there's some artists, and it's not just today, they've always been around, where you just think, wow, they're just pushing that, but I can't, you know if I was cleaning my teeth in the bathroom and they were singing in the shower, I wouldn't turn around. Kind of clean that one up a bit, but you've got to be moved by music, and I think that with Bonnie Raitt, the fact that she's never on British radio, or rarely, she's on 10 times a year, probably British radio, but it doesn't matter really, because people find the music, or she finds them.
Yeah.
And it's like the radio can just, whatever, they can. If positive radio is great, but if they just want to play the hits that they're paid to play, and then people tell people what's popular, exactly.
Right.
But
and the payola that they've been given to play the tunes by the record companies, and
I mean, there's a Motorhead, the band Motorhead. I'm a massive fan of Motorhead, and outside of it, on the BBC, there was a 2-hour rock show every Friday, which they would play heavy rock. Outside of that, you would never hear Motorhead, you would never hear Iron Maiden, you never hear any of the Metallica, you'd never hear them. But if they did a festival, sold out. Arenas sold out. So I think the radio is really, at one time it might have been, the crux of selling things, but they're at the end of the day, they're playing brilliance. It's not the other way around. And a great DJ can do so much for people. A great DJ is brilliant. But the fact that
but we don't have great DJs anymore, really. At least in the US, I mean, it's very limited. There are probably, I would imagine there are some cities, Chicago, probably, maybe Pittsburgh, San Francisco there, but it's all because all the stations are owned by conglomerates, and the DJ who's on is syndicated across the country. So you're not listening. I mean, I grew up at little girl in West Virginia, where the only radio I could pull in on my little transistor at night with the covers over, listening to my transistor, right? As so many of us did of that era, was KDKA in Pittsburgh. It was about 100 miles from my hometown, but their signal is awesome. And sometimes WGN late at night from Chicago. But but those were days where there were real DJs physically sitting in the studio, and not in some corporate headquarters broadcasting to 60 or 70 or 100 stations across the country. So that homogenization and this, it's has happened, and you're not getting. And then the latest to me, while we're off on this little tangent, the latest incarnation of that is satellite radio. Okay, new cars in the United States do not come with a CD player.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I have an auxiliary that plugs in, okay, to my USB port, because I mean, satellite radio, I've had a lot of fun with it. I found some stations that I really, really like. But if I want to listen to Bonnie, or I put my US thing in the USB port, and I use my little, clamshell auxiliary CD player in a car that is brand new. I mean, that's part of the whole, what we've been talking about, this whole homogenization, and you're not going to get Motorhead or Metallica on one hand, and you're not going to get very much Bonnie Raitt either. So here's where we are.
I think people seek it out because I think it's for me. If her music was food, it would be in the whole food section, the most nutritious thing you could possibly get. It'd be a superfood. It would be a superfood because the reason being that lyrically, musically, and musical integrity as well. She just oozes class. And you could have the most bombastic, incredible light show, and you could, you know, with what happened recently at the Oscars and stuff like that, you could put on like a, whatever kind of spectacular show, this type of that. You can have, spaceships flying everywhere, but have all that. But at the same time, you can have someone like Bonnie Raitt that sits there with a guitar, plays a song, and people feel the gravity of listening to music rather than being being told. Because I don't think people, DJs that play Bonnie Raitt stuff, don't really tell people this is amazing, you'll need to hear this, because they don't need to. It speaks for itself. Whereas I always think if DJs say, oh, this is, if an already artist, they kind of pushing things. You think, well, the music kind of speaks for itself. I think in that respect. And with the internet now, we can. I mean, there's a new talking about Dana Miller. Actually, she Dea Matrona, this Irish band, and they're brilliant. And they're kind of in this vein. They might well go down this route. Three young women playing great music, and I think you look at Bonnie Raitt as a role model, and she's a role model to me because she's a phenomenal musician and she's true to herself and she's brilliant. And I think as a role model, she is. You couldn't possibly study Bonnie Raitt in any way, shape, or form, and not be better for it.
Yeah.
And I think
She's
that's
a blessing.
I think
She's
so.
a blessing.
She like I say, she could be the guitar player that they would cast when God and the devil are having a drink together in a bar, or you could stick wings on her and she'd be angelic as well. She's just like, there's nothing she can't do. She's fabulous.
Oh,
Yeah.
I mean, it was a hard thing to do, to try to capture her in a poem. I felt it wasn't intimidation, but it was this incredible reverence of how do I do her justice. I owe her so much, for so long, over my listening life. So I hope I did that.
I think without a shadow of a doubt, I think every to me every poem you've done, Karla, has just been incredible. Because as much as people listen to music and go, yeah, that's totally immersive, and they were totally in the moment. I think that's absolutely the same with poetry. When I read your work, and not just the guitar work, that the books, the fractal books,
Right. Just much more, nature and place oriented, different subgenre, but thank you.
It's the immersiveness of and the intent to move people, which is absolutely, and I have never heard an ache of an angel's moans amongst sexy romps. You're emotionally tangy. Now that's if anyone's reading that, this is why you read the poems, Karla. But I think it's the intention to move people, and I think this one of the reasons why all your work, but the guitar book, people are going to be listening to it, possibly listening to the artist as well, and it's just like they're going to be moved as much as the music, because the insight. I mean, I've seen this poem quite a lot, and every time I see something different.
Oh, well, I hope, Paul, thank you. And I hope, especially for this poem, if someone doesn't know Bonnie Raitt, I hope in my dream of dreams, that the poem will say, oh, I guess I better listen to some of her. And I'll have done my job, you
Oh
know.
yeah. Well, I'm going to listen to some more later on tonight, actually.
Me
So
too.
yeah,
Me
yeah.
too.
That's what first thing I'm going to do. I'm thinking, oh my god, I got to listen to that tune. You know, is there anything you'd like to add, Karla?
Um, Not that I can think of. I love you, Bonnie Raitt. I love you, you know.
We all do. She's fabulous. Thank you so much, Karla. This has been an absolute pleasure as ever. And then we go on to episode 14 next time.
Yeah, who knows what that will be.
Brilliant. Thank you so much,
Okay.
Karla. Have a great week.
Thank
Thank
you.
you so much. And thank you so much. Pleasure.
All right. Bye, everybody. See you next time. Mwah.